So as we're getting close to the holidays, one of the things people think about is Christmas cookies. Now, it doesn't have to be Christmas cookies. It can be Thanksgiving cookies. It can be, huh? Why? Okay. Well, I'm going to give you the recipe for my grandma's butter cookies. It's an old recipe. It goes back to around the turn of the century, and that's the turn of the 20th century, not the turn of the 21st. And it's a butter cookie, and a lot of people have some variation of it. My grandma's cookies, always people loved them. When she would make them, she'd bring them to parties, she'd bring them to special events, and it's a basic dough. You can modify it as you want to make it good. I've had a few modifications I do myself. I'm going to show you how to make it, and it's really easy. And anytime you need to have good cookies, you can have these. So you start out, they're butter cookies. You start out with butter. I'm going to use 3/4 of a pound of butter. You want to get that butter softened so that when it's time to mix it up, it's going to mix up easy and you don't have to go and take an ice pick to break it up. There we go. Okay, you take that butter. First you mix in some sugar. I think I've said this before, but when you're beating butter and sugar, you want to beat them up really good, because what that's doing is that's putting air into the butter and the sugar, and it basically will take it and make the cookie lighter and more airy. And these cookies are pretty heavy, so you definitely want to lighten them up to the extent you can. You want to put in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. That gives you some nice flavoring. And then an egg yolk. The egg yolk adds richness to the cookie. And it's always good to add richness when you're making a cookie. Now beat that in. Okay. Now that that's in, you want to add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Now, the original recipe called for 1 demi-tasse-spoon. Now, most of you probably have no idea what that is, but a demi-tasse-spoon in the old days is what you used when you wanted to put sugar in espresso. You would take a tiny spoon and it works out to about 1/8 of a teaspoon. So you put 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder in it, and then 3 cups of flour. And now you want to mix that all in. I'm going to fold it in to start with, just because otherwise the flour is going to go all over the kitchen. Now that it's pretty well mixed in, you want to use your beaters to beat it in all the rest of the way and get everything good and mixed. Now, with everything all mixed up, all blended together, you want to maybe put on some gloves because you're going to be feeding these cookies to other people. You'll roll this dough into balls, and then I'll show you what to do after that. Okay, so now you've rolled them into balls. You want to take a spoon, or if you have a glove, you push it down with your thumb and you create an indentation in each cookie. Okay. All right. Now into these indentations, you can put all kinds of different things. I've put a macadamia nut in the center sometimes. Those are good. I use a Hershey's Kiss. That's good. My grandmother used to use candied fruit, and she'd put candied fruit in there sometimes. The traditional way is to put jam in it, and so I've done that. And I've also added the idea of using a chunk of a Hershey's nugget, a chocolate of some kind, or you can put some jam on the bottom and put the chocolate on top if you like the fruit and jam or fruit and chocolate combinations. So I do all of that type. You can use a number of different kinds of jam. Apricot jam will be a little yellowish orange. I like blackberry. I'm using a seedless blackberry. I also sometimes use raspberry jam. Another option, as I mentioned, is you can use a Hershey's Kiss or a Hershey's Nugget and put that on top of the cookie. Or in some cases, you put jam underneath and you put the Hershey's Nugget on top. You're going to have a number of different kinds of cookies this way. Another thing my grandmother used to do, and which I do sometimes, is you take some of the batch and you mix cocoa powder in. So you wind up with a chocolate colored cookie. Now, as I mentioned, you take about half the batch and you put in about 2 tablespoons of cocoa. And you wind up with a chocolate dough. And you want to go ahead and roll those into a ball. And now you have some chocolate cookies. Then you can take the vanilla dough, put about a half ball there, mix it with half a chocolate ball, and you wind up with a mixed cookie. Now, as you see, that creates a mixed cookie. When you press it down, you have a half and half cookie. Now, with these chocolate cookies and these half and half cookies, again, you can put an impression in them, fill them with something, or you can have them plain, and they're just fine plain. Same thing with the pure vanilla balls. You can make them plain as well. Sometimes you put half vanilla, half chocolate into a ball, you press it down, you just have a flat cookie that's part chocolate, part vanilla. That's good too. There are lots of ways to do it. I'm going to finish this up. Once they're all out on the sheet, you take the sheet, you put it in the 350-degree oven for 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to do that now. They're cookies. This cookie is one with the chocolate in it. Reminds me of my grandma.